your daily game face.
That wasn't me.
I am Dr. Kim Lannon. I was staring right at you. I'm Dr. Kim Lannon. Let me actually get an appropriate start. I'm Dr. Kim Lannon.
Hi.
And I'm not sure what that was, but I was staring at you, waiting for my cue. You said you were trying to get it right this morning. And
Yeah, I had the show loop on, and the loop dropped when I went live. It's not supposed to do that.
it said live,
It's a
and I
new
started
thing.
to talk, and then the music went over me. So here we are.
I know. Because I had the loop on. I'll show you the loop.
I don't want to hear the loop.
I had the loop on.
I see the loop.
Now, when I started the live, the loop dropped must be a new thing with the update.
Okay, now I'm seeing is the loop.
Yeah, now you're seeing this loop.
Okay, I don't want to see the loop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, so much.
Good Lord.
I know. You just, well, at least in the past month, you've had it once right.
I know, right?
1 out of 4.
1 out of 3, but
No, 4.
4? Has it been 4?
Yeah, we've had 3. We
Okay.
had 2 in a row that were horrific. We had 1 good, and then we just had another one. You're doing good.
I'm like 100% on every other show. You know that, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's just me.
It's just you.
I know. I'm clear.
100% for the last 10 years on every other show.
Except for me.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
I don't know what it is, but, here we are.
And we weren't even swords up today.
No.
We were very civil.
I know. There was nothing going on this
Nope.
morning. No heat, no swords up, nothing.
Very normal interaction this morning.
And you still screwed me.
I know.
Well, anyway, good morning, everyone. Welcome to your daily game face.
Yes.
It's when you put your game face on when you work with Lou.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
I
We
hate
have,
screwing up.
I know, well, you do it so well, though. And so often.
I really don't.
You really do. I have no other evidence. You know
I
how we
know.
talk about evidence in psychology? Like,
Yep.
you go with what you know. Well, I don't expect different.
Okay, go to the net. Every show I've done for the last 6 years, you guys can check out the percentage.
Irrelevant to my show.
That's true.
Irrelevant to
Yep.
my show. Anyway, so before I jump into all the things for today that we're going to talk about, because I had lots of things every single day over the past week going, oh, I'm going to talk about that next week. Oh, I'm going to talk about that. And people have been sending me ideas. But first and foremost, I have to address a very big thing that's going on. That freaking hurricane.
Oh,
So I have many friends and people down in Florida in the zone.
all
And
day I was checking in with people. I got people down there too.
So
Yeah.
I have people that are directly on Apollo Beach that are the direct impact zone in Tampa where it's going to cross over and hit. So I mean, the one good thing is I did see it go from category 5 down to 4 this morning, which really isn't a big deal, but I mean, it's still bad.
Well, one official said this morning, not survivable
So
in,
here,
in the evacuation zones.
so in the, so it was interesting. Well, not interesting, kind of scary yesterday. So my friend Kathy, who I'm sure is listening, or at least said she was going to be listening at some point. So she has evacuated because she's in Apollo Beach, and she, and that's like just a little shy of Tampa, like by minutes.
Yep.
But it's, right on the inlet. And, so she moved in a little bit into like the zone where they don't have the, they're outside the A and B, and
Yep.
they're on the tail end of C zone where you have to evacuate. So there's no mandatory evac. But where she is a mandatory evac. But people were staying. But I was listening to the mayor of Tampa yesterday, and then other officials in that area saying, like, if you do not leave, you will die. And
Yeah.
of course, they came back and said, it's not that you're, they're not saying you're going to die because you're going to, but it's just the inevitability of you being able to survive this and your pets is not. So it's scary, but also in Helene and in this, the people that are living in that area down there were, and they said it yesterday on the news, last night on the news, this is scary stuff. And this is I was going to talk about this in terms of psychology of like, talk about fortitude and perseverance, right? For people that are, they're hunkering down to stay in those zones. There's a reason why they're saying put your social security number, your name, and your date of birth on your body in Sharpie.
Oh, jeez.
That's what they're telling people. That's scary.
Yeah.
Like that's beyond scary. Like when I think about it, when I really wrap my head around that whole visual image, I'm like, oh my God. So, so I have, Kathy there, and then I have other people that probably don't want to be named, but I'll name Kathy because she chimes in here sometimes. But there's other people that are just inside that zone and just, waiting for it to hit because I guess it's not going to hit till really 2:00 in the morning for like the big piece. But and then I have people on the East Coast because of course it's going straight across onto the other side. So I've got Paula on the other side near Jacksonville, and it's coming up through there on the St. Johns River, and they've got the river behind them, and and so they have a barn buffer. But everybody's talking about, you know, how to protect their homes, but also how to protect themselves and their pets. And they were saying this morning, they did a whole piece this morning on, as you know, I'm an animal lover, so I wore my Wildcat shirt today, just because that's a whole nother story going on today out of New York. Like all the zoos and shelters and so on have plans, but then I was very impressed with the fact that the Miami Dade shelters, and then hopefully the ones in Tampa, I would imagine, and then other ones, had people come in to take the animals to foster them during it so that they weren't stuck in the kennels or in the cages.
Yeah.
Because, you know, oftentimes, and this is what Kathy and I were talking about yesterday, is that, you know, psychologically people, because we were talking about, what happens to people when they think I can ride this out when it clearly is not a ride about, right?
Right.
Or they then think my animals will survive. I'm thinking, you know, it's going to be a 10-foot surge right now. It went from 15 down to 10 in that one area, but it's going to be higher in other areas. Where do you think they're going to go? If you can't walk through the water, right? Dylan Dreyer was on this morning she was in Tampa talking about how, after 3 feet, you really can't start walking through it. And when it goes up over your head, which it's going to do, you know, the storm surge, how do you think if you can't walk in it and you can't get out, how is anything else going to get out? So we were talking yesterday about the psychology behind people who feel that they can ride it out, or that their pets can make it. And it just isn't. So if people are listening in Florida and you feel that you are in that zone and that you're going to ride it out, certainly I understand the fortitude you have in your brain to protect your house, but there's really nothing you can do. Here's one of those, I can't control the weather and I can't control what's going to happen. You know, you can always rebuild and you can always do other things, but you can't come back from being gone, and neither can your pets or other animals. So I encourage people to please go. You have time still, even though there's no gas left in those areas. I'm hoping that people have their generators and things, but it's very scary. But it's not a psychologically sound thing for you to make the justification in your head that somehow by you staying in your house in those areas, it's going to be okay.
Fear of the unknown.
And
people don't want to just take a drive out, and trust me, take a drive out.
Right. Well, and people get into the whole thing of like, oh, it can't be that bad. You know, I've heard different things. It can't be that bad. I've ridden it out all of my life. I've lived here. Yeah, they're saying the worst storm in 100 years that they've seen, back to Helene. And Helene annihilated.
Yeah, you would
these
think
areas.
Helene would have softened this up a little bit so people would understand, because that was pretty devastating as well. So, but no.
And they're saying this is way worse. And you can see it I've been watching on the tracker all week coming, you know, I mean, besides the fact that it did downgrade, and watching it on the news this morning, you know, the people across the different news channels were talking about how it went down from 5 to 4. And so that area, they call it out the wobble. I love that. You know, the wobble, if it goes south, what will happen? If it goes north, you know, if it goes north, it hits Tampa and that whole area hard. If it goes south, it hits, you know, Sarasota harder. But it's still going straight smack across the state fast. And I just want people to be safe. And I just know lots of people that are even in the zones that are just shy of the zone. They're saying, yeah, we're going to hunker down. I'm like, oh, God. Yeah. And then I know people that have gone to Georgia, gone to Alabama, gone up north because, you know, but just they got out. They got out. And then I have old clients that are gone now, but have gone off to college and stuff, that have flown back twice in the past 2 weeks from Tampa, because they go to University of Tampa to Massachusetts to get out, and they waited 12 hours in the airport to get out the other night. It was one of the last flights that left Orlando. It's insane. Yep. So the psychological aspects of why do people stay in these things? Maybe the fear of the unknown, but I also think that it's, you know, there's a stubbornness, and there's a, you know, I think there's an internal fortitude for sure about like staying the course, like that they don't want, but there's no, you know, it's not real. It's not my 3 R's. It's not Dr. Kim's 3 R's. It's not rational, not realistic, or not reasonable to put yourself in that position, because I don't know what you're going to do. Okay. And you end up seeing, you know, these are the people that are standing on top of their roofs being helivac'd out, or, swimming in the water as they're being swept down. Hi, Paula, good morning. And Paula, this is Paula that's on the Jacksonville side, and she's hunkering down, but she's on the other side of it. So she's got potential issues as well, because she's got the St. Johns River behind her. We had a little chit chat this morning about this, that she has to make sure she's got lots of animals, and she's got a house and trees around her and all this stuff it's just everyone's in scramble mode, and it's a lot. So maybe Polish can shed light on why do people stay. But I can only speak to the psychology of the fact that, people get very much wed to their places, obviously. And in talking with people that I'm friends with down there this week and last week, that have left, that did evacuate and saw people that were in that zone of like, it's a death zone, and that are staying. And, the tears of like leaving their homes.
Abandoning your home is
right. And watching all that stuff that, you're, and my thing is, I would take a 6-foot snowstorm over a hurricane any day.
Every day.
The fact that there's going to be tornadoes, I'm like, I'll take my 3 days of no power, half power, with my generator, some candles, and a 6-foot snowstorm.
We don't often get hurricanes.
No. But we do get nor'easters, but I'll take the snow. I regret probably saying that now, because now we're going to get slammed this winter with something really horrific. But, it's like, what was it, 2015, when we got 8 weeks in a row of like 2 feet of snow every Saturday, starting on January 27th. The reason why I know that crazy date is because it's my birthday. And literally it snowed on my birthday, and then every Saturday right up to the Boston Marathon.
That was the first snow, and then we got 110 inches after that.
And it was like boom, boom. And I was running, it was so stand out because I was running the course with 8-foot piles of snow over my head on a 70-degree day coming into April. Because there was so much snow.
Yeah.
So, but God love all the people in Florida, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I just,
but be sane, be rational, because I know it's hard to leave, but again, not survivable. You heard the term, people are going to die.
Right. Well,
and I think it's reasonable. I don't think it's scare tactic at all.
I don't either. No. I don't think. Even Al Roker, who he's like, this is not a good thing, and. You watch all the stations, and almost all the weather people are saying, if you are in the zone, get out.
Yeah.
In that zone right around Tampa.
And you introduced the pets this morning. I was thinking about that before, but not the pets. And like, don't leave your pets there. God.
Well,
if you leave for them, at least.
So, so people that I know that went through Katrina, right? I know people that, including, people in my life that were there and then helped with the aftermath. There were 10 to 12,000 cats, I'm not kidding, just in the streets afterwards that had been left behind and or abandoned and or were from the feral colonies that no one did anything with, and then dogs too.
Yeah.
And they, so we've been talking about it, and so I follow all the different places of like who's taking care of what, and all the, just so everyone knows, in places that get impacted like this, especially Florida and Louisiana, all like the animal shelters, or at least most. I won't say all, but most, and then all the zoos and all that, they all have to have hurricane evacuation plans for the animals. So they've been doing that all week. But it's just the people that stay in their homes.
Yeah.
When I went down to Louisiana after Katrina, a year and a half later, there were people, first of all, there were still people that were missing, and the smell in the city in New Orleans was awful. And the stories of people on like the streets that, talking about that I stayed, and I was listening to people that stayed because they didn't want to leave their dog. And I'm like, but why didn't you just leave with your dog? I asked this one man, and he was a storekeeper, and he had a sign up that said, I survived. And and I was like, oh, I want to know the story. And he was telling me, he's like, well, I didn't want to leave my dog. And when I asked him, you knew the storm was coming, why didn't you just leave and go to higher ground, like north, for a few days with your dog? And he looked at me like that was such a foreign concept. Seriously.
Yeah.
And, John, lived down there during that time. And I asked him, because he helped afterwards in Katrina. I said, what is it with people that do that? He's like, Kim, you have no idea. People just get so wed to their place of being in their life and down there of living that they just don't think like that. They don't think to go. They just say, well, I'll make it out. And if not, then, or to just, it just baffles me. Like, take the take your bird, your dog, your cat, your kids, just get out. You have time.
Yep.
Anyway.
I know.
I just,
I don't know why that's so hard.
But it's a psychology thing. It is. There's a mental, it's not a mental health issue because people are like, it's a mental health issue. No, it's not. It's a mental mindset of just people that, grew up, lived there, kind of like people in the Northeast. I lived in Vermont in the snow. People are like, why would you do that? Well, because you do. You learn to adapt. I mean, I've been in some whopper snowstorms.
I know, but it's
Vermont.
really life-threatening.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yes. So, but I would take a snowstorm over this any day.
Oh God, yeah, all the time.
I mean, just unbelievable. So I'm putting good, putting good energy out into the world, hopefully and if we could all send good energy down to Florida and surrounding areas of whoever's going to be impacted, because God knew who knew that Helene would go all the way up to Asheville, North Carolina, and just devastate them. God,
Asheville with a hurricane. Can you imagine? Who would have called that one?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, and my friend Olivia from Mountain, Minnesota, her family's there, and they were all underwater in Asheville. Mountain, beautiful. Like if you've never been there, it's like insane. I can't read what he wrote, but I'm sure it was interesting.
Lots of people down there won't leave everything they own. They just won't. Well, It's going anyway.
Well, yeah, but I think people think that maybe there's a chance that it won't. You know what I mean? I think people get into this justification. Well, maybe it won't, or maybe it'll be okay if I'm here. No, it doesn't work like that.
You're not the determining factor.
Mm-mm.
It's either going to be okay or it's not, and you have no control over it.
Exactly.
People hate no control.
But I think it's that. So if we go into like the psychology pieces of it just briefly, and then I'm going to move on. But it's that illusion. Oh my, Paula, I love it. She's written us the whole story. I have to read it. Hold on. I think it's just really quickly. I think it's that illusion of control.
Yep. People
stay because they have no clue of what's going to happen. We have people that have never experienced a hurricane, so they do not know what a storm surge will do. I lived through Johnstown flood in 1977, 23-foot wall of water come through. No surviving that. I was high enough to escape. With that said, I will leave my home when told to do so because I experienced flooding. So new Floridians don't leave until it's too late. We are safe. Yes, she is. All my littles are hunkered down. I'm sure they will.
My littles are hunkered down. I'm sure they will.
Wait
a second.
Did it have more?
Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah, because it doesn't show. Because I will leave home when told to do so. So all my littles are hunkered down. I'm sure they will. Okay, that's it.
So so Paula has been through this, so she knows. And that's what I've experienced with most people. Like all of my friends, like Paula and other people. Like if they're told to get out and evacuate, they do. Like I would never worry. I worry about you, Paula, because you're there, but I don't worry that you wouldn't make the right decision. But there's so many people that don't, like she just said, new people that live there, or people that have lived there and they just think that they can ride it out.
I understand, but the thing, and I would have understood that for Helene, but what was that, a week ago, 10 days ago?
Yes, all my littles will end up in the house by nightfall. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I know. But I know she knows. That's the thing. I don't worry about Paula in that way, or I just worry because it's there. But it's about people that don't do what Paula's doing, or Kathy, or other people that are not naming themselves that I have down there. So it's like, ugh. So now what is? Oh, this is obviously. What is John saying?
Pulling boats out of pools to cure the disbelief. Y'all get out. That's all.
Right. Oh, yeah. I love his acronym there.
No, it's fine.
Yes.
It's appropriate.
Yes. GTFO.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's for that area, where Paula is. She's up. She was more in danger in the last one in terms of she was trying to fly out. So, but this one's just as bad. Well, worse actually. Right. So, but she knows what to do. And that's the thing is she knows. And I think she makes a good point of people that are new. And Kathy we were talking about that yesterday about people, come in, they're all moving. They all want to come down, but they don't realize okay, and this is a totally separate piece, but it's there. It's the flood insurance has gone up now in the past year, huge. The insurance rates in general, the taxes on it for flood, just it's insane because all of a sudden all these things are happening just more intensely. So what'd you say?
It's worse.
It's worse.
Yep.
So great. Let me worry all day. I feel like I have to worry till Friday.
I know, like I said, I spent
know?
most of the day yesterday talking to people I know down there,
Well, that's
making
and
sure they're safe, and
well, John has a friend that I don't know, but I know him just through Facebook. That his name's Tom, and he's in Coral Gables. And so when they got hit last year with the hurricane, his house is one of the only ones that remains standing in that little like sandbar that they're on.
God.
And so he just finished replacing his deck and all that stuff, and he's in an evacuate zone. He's staying.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh my God.
And John puts it, this is appropriate too for people to understand. This is the defining event. This isn't just a hurricane.
Right.
This is the granddaddy of hurricanes.
Right.
As it stands right now.
Yes. Yeah. And even though they downgraded, they're saying it's still the granddaddy of hurricanes in 100 years.
Yeah. It's gone from psychopath to just serial killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy was calling it the massacre yesterday. She's like, it's going to be a massacre here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. And yeah. And that heavy heart feeling of like, I walked myself through it last night. If you can visualize like having to shut your door for the last time before you walk out with the only things you can bring with you to get away, knowing that you may not come back to your house or any of your things because they're all gone.
Yeah.
And she has a house right on the water. So
yeah,
she's right on the canal. I'm thinking, no, I love you all. So anyway, on that happy note, right? Awful. I'm thinking for all of them. It's just awful.
I know.
It stresses me out for them.
And I'm still stressed out about North Carolina. And
well, I know it's like, and they're scrambling to come back down. All the crews that were up there trying to help do all the electrical power back on for all those people that were from Florida, all the crews.
Yep.
They're all being rerouted to come back down to Florida because it's about over 1 million people, they say, or more are going to be out of power. I'm thinking that's an underestimate there.
I think so too.
So what'd she say? Oh, I can say it. I'm blind as a bat. I need eye surgery.
We love you too. And thank you for caring.
You're very welcome.
It feels sitting here. It feels
awful.
No, it's like,
I feel awful.
All
I'm like,
I can
what
do
can
is
I do?
Care. Yeah.
Right. Like care.
Anyone wants my house? Come on up.
I know. Well, they can't get on a plane now.
I know.
Well, I've offered everybody that's listening, that we'll come down and help you after if you need us, or you can come up here, but I will come down and help whatever I can.
This one's going to be bad.
I know.
This one's going to be real bad.
I know, we got to stop saying that.
I know.
It makes my heart hurt.
Every time I think about it,
flutter. Yeah. So yeah, talk about stress, right? And people managing stress as they wait. It's like an anticipatory anxiety that I can't even fully imagine. I have it for them, and I'm not even living there. And I'm like, oh my God.
I know, imagine that circumstance of this rolling down the hill at you. You get days. We've had days of anticipation of this.
Right. Well, the only thing we can liken it to, honestly, is when we get I have to laugh sort of because we get these storm warnings in the winter of like, you're going to get 8 feet of snow. Here it comes.
Snow bombs.
Yeah. And then we get 2 inches and, but everyone panics for 3 days, clears out all the grocery stores. This is what like hurricane, right? And then, and if it does happen, then at least people are prepared. But last year we had like no snow and we had 4 false alarms last year of like, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And that's when everyone's
I would take 3 more blizzards of 78. I mean, that's the worst one I've ever lived through. And I would take that over this 100 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was little, but I remember it. And I'm like, this is, and I was in Vermont up on the mountain.
Yeah. Good for you.
I know. Not really. No, because that ended actually in me being in a mudslide of the mud coming off the mountain and sliding down into our house because we were in a chalet that lived in a ski in, ski out. That was my house in Ludlow, Vermont on Okemo Mountain. And it came down and... You
went through the blizzard of 78 in a ski out?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What was the psychology behind that?
Listen,
not that we knew that was coming to the same degree.
I don't think that anyone knew back in 78 like that. I don't know. I don't... And you have to blame my parents for why we didn't move on out, but we didn't. And then the aftermath was the flood that took out the road and almost took out the house. And I remember being carried out through hip deep water to my parents and mud thick running down, like fast moving down, like, and I have vivid memories of that. So that's the closest I can come to being stuck in like a surge of mountain debris coming down at you, and the whole entire basement, like I think it was almost 4 feet of water and mud and trees and everything took the bottom of the house. Didn't take it off the mountain, but House is still there.
Hmm.
I visit it
Hmm.
on occasion because I knew the owners. Now I know the owners, but I'm surprised that house is still standing. They did do some grading on it, so that would help.
Yeah.
So they flattened it out, but it was on a very steep hill with a very steep driveway. So anyway, I feel bad moving on to the topic of the day.
It's such a helpless feeling, isn't it?
I know. I'm like, I really wish I could do something. So, I mean, it was kind of funny. I had some of the friends down there last night talking about it, and I'm like, so how are you going to cope with it? So they're on that. I feel safe for them, but there's still the edge, because you never know, because they're in the still 9-foot surge zone. Like whatever that is going to be hard. But then I was like, and they're like, we can drink beer. I'm like, oh God. So
stuck up.
I'm like, then they were like, well, we're not going to
Instead of milk and bread, they're stocking up on beer.
I was like, I said, laughing, joking, like, did you get beer? And they were like, yeah, we had beer. That's good. So I'm like, oh God, joking, sort of not, like how, they're all, no one can go to work. No one can do anything.
Yep.
And you're just waiting. That's awful.
Yep.
I have this thought in my head of like, talk about waiting for death, for people that stayed. So, and I don't know personally the people that stayed. I know who they are, like just by look, because I've been in that area where they are. But I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yep.
They're right on a corner of like that little inlet that Kathy's on, and I'm like, oh,
what are those few hours going to be like? I mean, the hours leading up to it. I mean, just 8
o'clock
that
tonight
anticipation.
Is the wind is coming. Like the 8 o'clock time tonight apparently is when it's supposed to really be strong, and then into 2 and 3 in the morning. So what is he saying now? Drinker what?
Drinker cane?
Drinker cane? Oh, like hurricane. Drinker cane. He's being funny.
They can think of that wind's going to pick up.
Yes.
Say 8 o'clock, right?
Yep.
And it's going to hit about 2.
That's what they said. 2 in the morning, like the eye.
So what are you going to be thinking at 10 or 11 when that wind is
Whipping.
howling?
Right.
And you haven't seen the worst of it yet.
Maybe we shouldn't build the picture for people that already have the picture in their head.
No, because people should get out.
I know. Well, if you are in an evacuation zone, put your ego aside, put your pride aside, get the hell out.
Yep.
Just get out. Let it go. Take your stuff that you can and get out. You still have time. I can't see what she said.
Oh. You do need glasses.
I know. Well, I don't want to put them on. Okay, fine.
It's got to hit 1 a.m. Sarasota expected, and then headed across the state.
Yeah, there we go. I only was going on with my climb NOAA tracker.
Sarasota. So
Jacksonville is on the East Coast.
No, I know.
North, but
just
Sarasota is below Tampa on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So,
but Sarasota to Jacksonville, it's pretty north. It's going to be pretty northern path. So it's going to go through Orlando.
Yeah, but it's that tunnel, that funnel thing that they're showing.
Yeah. With
the cone.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's like right into it has the big part of Jacksonville. Yeah. So. Oh God, it's stressful talking about it.
I know.
So I'm feeling for everybody.
And I've seen some of the aftermaths, so
yes,
it's not good.
250 miles wide. See, she says East Coast, 250 miles wide. We will get it. Yep, it's terrible. So in Cocoa Beach, another place where I have more people, it's like, oh my God, they're gonna get wiped too. Hi, Scott. Back in 2017, my daughter was a college intern working for Disney. Me and a couple of other fathers rented them some rooms from one of the Disney hotels instead of them staying at the small wooden structures they were housed in. Steep and concrete made us feel we had protected our daughters. Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I know that all the hotels in Orlando, from what I was reading yesterday and I was watching this, all the hotels in and around Orlando and the Disney area are all full.
Oh, I bet.
People have that's where they, to Scott's point, that's what people did. They just went and bought out, all the hotel rooms are completely out.
I was down in Daytona a week after Andrew.
Yep.
And I was in a hotel on Daytona Beach, 10th or 11th floor, and the carpets were still wet.
Yep.
Everything got blown out. I wouldn't want to be in a high rise in that situation.
No, because people so I know 2 people that live in high rises that do believe and have written it out before that they do believe because they're up. I'm like, because in my head, you know
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
So, yeah. But I think the Disney plan for Scott's Disney plan is great. But I think for most people now to get a hotel room there is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been a great plan for people.
In 2017 or any one of 100 other hurricanes, it would have been great. This one, again, this is above it. This is a killer.
I know.
This
Thank
is
you.
different.
The nursing home, Paula says the nursing home, I gotta rewind. Okay, hold on. The nursing homes in the Gulf Coast just opened up to all families that are in the storm path to come and stay with their loved ones. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. That's like Tampa. So I was watching the Tampa Hospital and the Tampa Pediatric Center, which I'm familiar with down there. They have these really, I mean, obviously we don't have hurricanes here, so we don't have the structures, but they have all these walls with these hydraulics that snap down into the ground and stuff that hold from some of the, not all, but some of the storm surge on the bottom floors to hold it. But people are staying, obviously the doctor, they can't move all the patients. So they moved them up floors and kind of, but they're all supposedly built for this. So
this is going to be a test.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love all of you and I send out all my love and energy. I don't want to say thoughts and prayers because that's not a thing.
Oh.
But I love you all and I pray for good energy and safety around all of you. Just good energy. So
I pray for what the meteorologists do to us during snowstorms. You're going to get 2 feet and you get 2 inches. Hopefully it just all backs down.
Or when they say 2 inches and we get 6 feet. It's true, And I'm obviously from Vermont, so I have no problem driving in it. And then I get so annoyed when people are like, "It's off flat." I'm like, "Oh my God, just drive the car."
Oh God, I know. I know. I'm the same way.
It's
like if you don't want to drive, that's perfectly fine. Stay home. Don't come out here and not want to drive.
Yes. Hi, Leanne. Good morning. So Leanne's in Minnesota. So on a different note, I'm gonna move to a different note for a second. So Leanne. I was getting ready to do my topic, and then Leanne reminded me when she came on. So there's a really great thing happening outside of this awful thing happening. Mm-hmm. So for the Wildcat Sanctuary, there is a tiger. Her name is Lucy, coming from an Argentina zoo that was it's been 10 years in the making to get this tiger out of Argentina to have her sanctuary.
Really?
Out of the zoo. There were 2. It started with Violetta and Lucy, and Violetta unfortunately died because she became too old during the process, because there's lots of political paperwork and tape work and all kinds of stuff that happens around these things and getting transfers. So Lucy.
Oh, wait a second. Before we get there.
Yes.
Can we just clap a little bit for Nibby?
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You talked about political stuff.
Okay. So hold the story for. I'm never going to get to any psychology stuff today, but that's okay. This is all about good health and wellness stuff anyway.
Yep.
Hold Lucy for a second. I'm going to come back to Wildcat Sanctuary. Nibby, who I talked about last week, that made national news, the beaver of all beavers, the representative beaver of the universe now. In small part, me as one person and 25,000 other people, plus the governor and politicians from all over the state and the country, and beaver rescues and sanctuaries of all kinds and zoos and every biologist under the sun that could be involved, saved her from being put out into the wild because she inevitably was going to not make it because arbitrarily that person. So Newhouse Wildlife Center in Chelmsford, Mass. Got a huge rolling support internationally and nationally, and saved this little beaver from imminent death. And biologist and naturalist agreed and overrode whoever it was that said, just release her, it's fine.
Should be flogged.
Well,
person should be flogged.
So Jane Newhouse, who runs she made a statement yesterday to come out that wildlife, mass wildlife is not to be vilified. That they definitely needs to, because she has good partnership with them, and she wanted to make sure that despite her agitation and anger with them last week for their arbitrary decisions, that she is happy to work with them still. And I mean, she has to run a rehab center here, and she's got a huge.
Did the judge ever rule?
I do not believe she had to. It never went to court on Friday. Maura Healy came in and on Thursday, the day after I had the podcast, the day after, and said she stays.
Mhm.
So I do not believe it ever went that far. I never heard it going that far she had to go back to the judge. So
This is the silliest story.
I do.
No, I
Oh.
mean, from this, someone just released that. Look what it caused, and what were we saving by doing it? No, I mean, what was that person saving by
I see
forcing
oh,
the release of this
I know.
beaver that's perfectly happy?
I think I just chalk it up that they were having a bad moment. I don't know, but clearly the wrath of a lot of people came down on top of that. So it saved that lovely little thing. So now she is an education beaver full on. She got the education status, and
Yep.
she's very cute. If you've never seen her, you can certainly go on to Newhouse Wildlife and see her, and she's now the representative. Now, meanwhile, if you've ever seen or heard any of my past shows, you know that I have a beaver issue in the backyard of my house that's about to flood.
A separate thing.
That's about to flood my house and about to take out the bottom floor of my house. But, you know, we saved her.
Yeah.
And I was part of that. So, good karma towards me on that one. So anyway, so she made national news. The Today Show covered her. The Good Morning America, I think, covered her. Like, it was big. CNN.
Is John being sarcastic?
I don't know. I haven't. Let's see.
Mass wildlife people are the best.
I don't know.
What percentage of that is sarcasm?
I don't know. I think he's being, politically correct.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think probably most mass wildlife people are
I
fine.
agree, but
because
somebody needs to be flogged.
Because we, oh my God, I'm not saying that.
I'm fine with the organization.
I can just say that we are not wildlife rehabbers, but we have saved many a wildlife animal by capturing them and bringing them in their time of need to the Grafton Hospital that's run by Tufts, and unfortunately 98% of every animal we brought there has died.
Well,
but we tried.
Yeah.
We've lost 4 geese, I think 3 geese. I don't know, John would probably remember, but over the years. But they do awesome, and they have helped us when we've had those issues. So we've never had a problem, but this was an anomaly on the board. Anyway,
I'm not talking about the organization, but someone needs to be flogged.
So stop saying that on my show.
This is so predictable.
Okay. So going back now to Lucy. So good morning, Marcy. So Marcy's here. Marcy's from New Hampshire. And so Marcy's part of the TWS family with Leanne and Paula. So we've got a little crossover of all the issues going on in the country right now. But going back to that, so yay, Nibby, but now Lucy. So Lucy and Violetta were from the Mendoza Zoo in Argentina. Mm-hmm. And without going into the whole big story, Violetta did pass because she was much older. We have found out, and I have found out, that Lucy actually was much younger, not tons younger, but in terms of tiger age, she's around 16, which is better than 20, 24, because clearly, so she flew. She finally made it onto a plane and got to New York yesterday from Argentina. She got to overnight. And so she is on the road now being transported by Tammy, the founder.
Did she fly commercial? These are important questions.
Okay, everybody that's listening,
was it cargo,
you can go right after Lou for this.
No,
and
this
explain
is
him.
Important stuff.
I believe I don't know the answer to that question at this juncture. So Leanne or Marcy might know, or Paula might know. I don't think she flew commercial. I think it was she might have flown commercial in the cargo.
Yeah,
I know she flew cargo, but I'm not sure what type. I know that there's a sponsor or a donor who has helped, amongst lots of smaller donors, like all of us around it.
There you go. Leanne said American Airlines.
Oh, there we go.
So I'm picturing these baggage handlers at American Airlines loading this tiger under.
Well,
line.
It goes tiger.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leanne. But you made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
But all I've got is that.
Can't we just have some fun with it?
I know, but I was trying to finish my point. And this is what you do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's made it to New York. They're on their way with Tammy and Judson from TWS, driving from New York all the way back to Minnesota.
Wow. To
bring her home to Sanctuary so that she has grass and not a concrete 4x4 wall in spot. So I'm very excited for. You are terrible today. No,
that was John
in the overhead compartment. Oh my, John. All right.
I wouldn't pay the $50 baggage either. I'm sorry.
You are okay, John. Stop.
I'm happy. This is good news, so I'm having fun with it.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, so it's very exciting for Lucy because hopefully she will have, because she needs some medical care, and she definitely needs sanctuary. And this was a long time coming, 10 years ish. So, and that's what I was saying, is that there's a main donor that's been helping, and then there's lots of donors that have helped get this going. And, you know, obviously it's a village when it happens like this to save something. So there's a good thing going on.
Will they put her with other tigers?
No.
No, let's keep her separate.
Everybody, well, unless they're, so tigers are usually separated out, because unless they have been together, or, I mean, it's a longer story that I don't need to go into right now, but no, probably not. My guess is no. It's a no. She's got her own, she'll have her own thing, and she'll go into her, yes, she did hit the lottery going to TWS.
Yes.
Paula says goes through customs, but pretty cool watching them load her in this morning. Yes, I watched her be loaded in this morning. I'm
trying to think of the customs official.
Well, they know she's coming in.
I
and it's not like their first, you know, it's not like their first rodeo. Lou could be the next enrichment for the big cat. Only kidding.
What?
She's essentially saying that you could be given to like their play toy.
Okay.
That would be the enrichment.
All right. All I did was ask if she flew commercial.
Oh my God.
She didn't turn out to be a bad question either.
Well, that's right.
Leanne
Good morning. Oh, Kathy. So Kathy is now joining us. So Kathy, if you missed the first part of the show, it was all about you, Kathy, essentially. Good morning. So Kathy is hunkering down and not in the evacuation zone.
Good.
She's gotten out. She got out with her pets, and I was up her yaya for the past few days, like, let's go. So she's out. She's in a higher ground. I still don't, she's going to kill me. I still don't think it's high enough, but she's higher. I'm always like, can you just go higher?
Yep.
But anyway, yes. So we're bouncing all over the place, from Florida to Minnesota to New York. So we've got
we balanced some bad news with some good news.
Right. So we've got some good saving here. So hopefully she is, gets healthy and gets all the things she needs, because she did hit the jackpot going to Wildcat Sanctuary. That's why I wore my shirt in favor of it today.
I would have killed to do that drive. I would have driven that cat.
Why?
Cross country with a tiger?
Oh, okay.
It'd be an adventure, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be, but you know, you have to be Tammy or Judson or someone that, you know, has the training. It can't just be one of us, Joe Schmoes. You know, because you have to actually take
I
care
understand.
of the tiger. And Leanne says, yes, it was a commercial flight. Thank you.
Nessie John's in too. We'll do the road trip.
The two. There we go. Well, I'll make sure that Tammy knows the next time she needs a transport of 17 little cats and Asian leopard cats. You guys are gonna.
So was there a carriage carriage? A baggage carousel somewhere?
No, will you stop?
Where they said, you gotta wait a minute because we gotta get this tiger off the plane.
No, you are terrible. You are.
No,
everybody that's on, just go right after Lou. You know you can do it. It's just brutal.
Why is this bad?
Because
I'm down to the logistics of how this actually happens.
Okay. Have you seen customs, like how like big packages and things come through customs? Yeah. Right. So it's not like
No, I'm just getting her on and off the plane.
Well, it's like a cargo. It's a big cargo crate, right? And she's in like the cage for now, and then she comes out and I
know, but you're Ralph from the Bronx and you're working at the airport today. And all of a sudden you got this box and there's a tiger in it.
They're prepared. They know these things are happening.
Yep.
It's not like their first rodeo, because they have the Bronx Zoo. To your point of Bronx, True. It's not like they haven't transported.
They flying animals to the Bronx. Oh,
well,
how else would they get them there, right?
Well, they drive them too, because zoos swap.
Yep.
So they either drive or fly. See? You are getting the education today.
It's just interesting. Life is interesting.
Well, if you go to I Love Wildcat Sanctuary or Wildcats, you can see on Facebook, you can see all of it's like documented in video the whole way. You can see this whole thing. You can see the load in, the load out. You can see her go through customs.
Then I will go and I will watch.
And you will be answered all these questions. So I was cut short this morning coming here because I've been watching it off and on all morning between that and the hurricane.
Nice. See, you were interested too. See?
Well, I'm always interested because I want to know what's
valid interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So join TWS and I Love Wildcat Sanctuary Cats and all the different sites, and you'll see all of it live. Anyway, okay. So should I actually start my topic today?
Yes.
Okay.
Getting done hurricanes,
I know.
beavers,
Well, this
tigers.
this is going to be interesting because now Kathy's listening. And so remember how I did that whole thing with the HOA?
Yes.
Okay. Remember the psychological crapshoot that was
Yep.
in Apollo Beach? Not that I'm naming it, but I am. I didn't name the place, but so remember it was how hard it was to be dealing with that, and I was helping them. Well, so I was asked, and I don't know why I do these things, but I was asked to help. I won't say where, but there was a place local that was asking me to help out with an issue of doing like an expert, just quick chat, like a 5-minute chat to come in and talk to a town meeting.
God.
So the last town meeting, so this is on Monday night. So the last town meeting a month ago, apparently I was invited to it, but I couldn't make it because I was working, and I was invited to come to do the same thing. But I'm glad I didn't go because there were apparently 200 people at this thing, and it was a disaster.
Yep.
Let me just put it that way. It was like Milton coming through. It was like a massacre of the board. So anyway, so the board, in its infinite wisdom, decided, let's drag this on more. And so they said, can you still come back and give your little 5-minute thing? I'm like, sure. So the topic for this was smoking versus non-smoking in a private club like the Elks, and it was the Elks, but for private clubs like the VFW, Elks, Kiwanis, but it was one of them specifically, and it was the Elks. But talking about how non-smoking bans can increase revenue and also make your health better. So it was the health and economic impact from a psychological perspective is what I was supposed to talk about, which I did. Thank God I'm calm.
How does it raise revenues?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Okay.
Be patient.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So anyway, if you want me to get to that right away, I'll just tell you.
No,
do you want me to just tell you that?
Yeah, just summary, because I'm curious.
Okay. So, well, let me get to my actual, because I have to make sure I keep it all factual because, people had a moment. Thank God. And so I have all my papers here, and I went in, and this is my story. You're ruining my story.
I'm sorry.
So I go in and, I get up there, and there's, I don't know, there's 5 members on the board, 6, 7, I don't know how many, but they're all like, listening, and I got a little back chat from behind me. There's about maybe 60 people in the room, this one. And they have no idea who I am, the people behind me. And they're looking at me like, who is this woman? Anyway, so I come in very, my whole thing was, this is not about your right to smoke or not. This was about, here's what happens. And if you're free of smoke, and how it's got a lot of support around the country and in other countries around this. And, and I brought in data and all this stuff. So anyway, so I will give you right out of the, gate, but people were very much about like, it's my right. So that's a whole, separate thing. But that wasn't my issue.
Yep.
So community effect studies. So that's what we call them, community effect studies. Okay. Which there were numerous. And so I whittled them down, but they did. So they conclude that bans at bars, smoking bans at bars and restaurants cause more non-smokers to frequent establishments and outspend smokers. And as a result, it lowers the frequency of cardiac and lung issues for both non and smokers, because they're not going out and doing the behavior and the frequency. And although the spending of the smoker goes down, people who come in that are non-smokers, it increases their rate of spend. So 61% of the U.S. has 100% smoke-free air policies in bars, restaurants, and work sites now because of the common studies that have gone on over the past 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when I tell you that I came across so many research studies from all over internationally, and because international policies have them as well. The countries, it's 1 in 3 countries have policies to create 100% smoke-free environments for bars and restaurants. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of the trend. And their thing at this town meeting was, well, we're a private club, so we shouldn't be told what to do. And it wasn't about like that. It was more about like just educate on, first of all, it, the studies that show, and I have more of those that say over and over again, like it increases revenue. Even places, big establishments that are very well known, talk about how their revenue went up. And, and some of them have provided outdoor spaces. So if it's raining or if it's doing something else, that they have, I'm like, I stopped. I'm sorry, everybody. Kathy just wrote, it's okay that you missed it. You can go back and listen to the beginning. It was just talking about the hurricane. So in case anyone wanted to know, as you know, I'm very thorough. So if you ask me, where did you get that information? Do you think I can tell you?
Yes.
And do you think I got it from Wikipedia?
No.
And do you think I pulled it off of Google, off of some random weird site?
No.
Okay. That being said, I say that for a reason, because board members, I won't name, and I will just say members because it could be one or it could be many, are Googling while I'm talking.
Yeah.
Right. Because they have to, they were, whoever was for or against, whatever. And I'm watching, being like prepared. Anyway, so let me just go on. So here's the thing. So let me go through the statistics on this so that people can understand like about the importance of like the non-smoking thing. So 1 million people die worldwide per year of secondhand smoke. So we're talking about secondhand smoke, not firsthand, but we're talking secondhand. But most people don't understand, because I do this obviously with, addictions and all this. There's third and fourth hand too, and people don't talk about that. So I brought that in. And so there's been an increase of over 40,000 people in deaths alone in the U.S. of non-smokers per year, non-smokers. And it's a $5.6 billion loss of productivity in businesses each year when there's a smoking environment involved. Okay. And I gave you the community effect studies. So study after study showed that there's no negative or adverse economic impact on bars and restaurants. In fact, that most cases, they're economic benefit. And the argument is often put forth that smoke-free bans will hurt business. Now, this is all over lots of the research, and then it comes out with not true. It's a myth. It's a long-term scare. Now this will, everything's political. It's a long-term known scare tactic based in fiction that comes from the tobacco companies that indoctrinating smokers to believe that it's a fight for their rights, when it's not talking about taking their rights away at all. It's about making sure that there's a healthy environment for them to be in when they want to do their thing, that's not invading other people, and then everybody's equal in the inside. But if you want to do something on the outside of it, you can still do that. And so obviously people didn't like that. And then talking about multiple studies that show that implementation of outdoor smoking areas are effective at reducing tobacco use, increasing patronage, which increases the economic impact of the bar or the restaurant. And it's a benefit for smokers and non-smokers, because it kind of makes everything just healthier inside for people. The tobacco industry, of course, has fought back, and I had a whole bunch of stuff that came from their studies that, of course, contradicted it. But of course, when we look at studies in psychology or in medical field, we always look at who's funding them and who's buying in. So when I get my resources on all these things, I try to go to like the Thoracic Journal of Medicine, like things that are invested in, like not any of the tobacco industry, or not, they don't have any, and they don't have any skin in the game in that way. It's more like, okay, let's protect all health. And I always try to find, in this case, when I talk about, and when I teach this in my class, talk about, okay, who's doing the research and research methods that are really about taking the whole picture into account, not just being biased and one-sided, because then that doesn't make the research valid. Even though they'll say it's face valid, it's really not internally valid, because you can't then generalize it out. So while they were Googling in the town office, people were Googling for themselves to find things to counter me. It was interesting. And then again, so rigorous studies have shown smoke-free hospitality venues have at least neutral or positive effects on both economy of the establishment and health of the patrons and employees. And then, so then in the, it's the journal, it's called Thorax. Okay. So you always try to get up to date journal entries too, not from 20 years ago. So 2022, March 11th, indoor smoking bans are associated with less smoking and increased lung function in general population because it reduces smoking behavior and it reduces second, third, and fourth hand smoke. So second, third, and fourth hand smoke, obviously we know what secondhand smoke is. That's if you're standing next to someone and you're breathing in what they're doing, then that's the secondhand smoke. Now, this is what caused a member of the board to lose their mind. And so is when I said this, which comes from the study. As a bystander, you inhale the same toxic substances as the smoker, and your risk for lung cancer increases 30% even after one brief exposure. I thought this man was going to lose his mind, literally lost his mind. And this is where it goes back to the HOA thing, right? Again, thank God I'm calm, because he interrupted, of course, and looked up and very disrespectfully, with disrespect and rudeness, started going at me. And I listened, and then he said, "Can I?" And after he gave me his soliloquy of whatever the heck he was saying, came up with some random 7% number and then asked me a question like, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes, you can." However, I said, "You can ask me a question as long as you're going to be respectful about it, because I'm being respectful to you," which he didn't like, because, God forbid, we have decorum. And he asked me the question of like, "Where did you get this study?" So, of course, I can produce, and it's a legitimate place. And I had so many things in my head running through, like, well, not Dr. Google, but so I didn't say it, but in my head now, I'm letting it out now, because this is what happens is, educate yourselves on, whatever the topic is going to be, but don't just start randomly pulling stuff out. So I respectfully said, when he gave me, it says here 7%, and he impolitely used some, I don't know, profanity and said, "You're full of shit," essentially. And I said,
as a board member?
Yeah. And I said, "I respectfully disagree with I don't think it was exactly that, but it was essentially that. And I said, "I respectfully disagree with your numbers, and your facts are wrong." And so, of course, another board member said, can you give us all the information that you have with all the resources? And I said, "I absolutely can." At which point, to end the story on that piece, is that it was such a crazy thing that came about, because I did my whole thing, and it ended up being that, like, literally across the board, they all just said, "Forget it." And they all just, like, dominoes fell. The entire board of, they all just fell over. And because they got into a big fight with someone that was there after I spoke, and they had this big thing. And it was then after I got to speak about this, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, like smoking and the second hand and third hand, but I was very impressed with the fact that after the fact, I would say at least a dozen of the people in there came to me, as I was walking out, and said, "Thank you so much for coming. I agree with you. You spoke for us, but it is a private club, all this stuff." And it was nice, at least. And then said, "We totally agreed. You didn't deserve," and people were apologizing for I won't say gentleman, because he wasn't, but for the man who decided that he, clearly needed to go at me. But he didn't like my facts. And so this was an interesting point around the fact that here's like the same thing with HOA, right? That I was talking about a couple of years ago. When people are faced with facts, it goes back to that preferred outcome. If it's not your preferred outcome, you don't like the facts. But when you have facts that are backed up by hundreds, and I'm not kidding, hundreds of research studies, and you just pull out some random 7% number at me. And I said, where are you getting that? And I'm like, it's not right, and I don't even know if he actually listened to me, because if you listen to what I said, it's like, as a bystander, and you take in one episode, it can increase, or it may increase your lung cancer risk by 30%. He did not like that statistic. And I'm sorry, it just came from the real stuff. And I didn't get a chance to go on to the fact that when you have third and fourth hand smoke, so there's a toxic resin that comes from smoking, right? So and and I reached this out for psychological impact for people. There's a toxic resin that comes, and what it does is it lands on surfaces, walls, the bar tops, the tables in the restaurant, the bottles, glasses. And so the third hand smoke is all that stuff that sort of sits around you and on people's clothes and on their hair and all those things. So when you're still sitting there and the environment may have been vacuumed and cleaned, there's and I have research on that too that I presented, that there's no ventilation system. There's no way to clean the walls, the air. Like, you have to gut the place and restart in order for it to be fully free of third and fourth hand. And that toxic resin that gets created, that lingers in, is considered the fourth hand. That's the like extra strong carcinogenic stuff that, like, you put your hand down, even though you might have sprayed it down with, Lysol and bleach and all that stuff, it's still stuck around you. And so when you're inhaling that in, and it's not outside and it's not just going free into the air, it's a totally different ballpark. And vaping too. So people afterwards were asking me about vaping. So both cigarette smoke and vaping create moisture, one more than the other. And that was one of the reasons why I was trying to explain that when it gets stuck, like, this room would be a nightmare, right? Because it would get stuck in all the foam. All that stuff gets stuck in there because the moisture from the smoke gets just pulled into the spaces, and then it spores.
Right.
And, so with vaping, you get the mold spores, and, and you get the black lung. And then with regular cigarette smoking, you get the sporing from all the 7,000 different toxins, which I got so many snickers behind me, I have to say. I mean, it's like, people are so rude, but, about, like, there's benzene, and there's stuff that protects your vinyl carpeting in them, and there's formaldehyde, and then there's arsenic. And it's not like this is not known. Even the tobacco industry has admitted that, yeah, they put that in there. But people were getting so mad about, like, the facts about these things. And it was more about, you can still smoke, but you should think about having, like, an outdoor area where it can be released. And then there was a woman, this lovely woman. She was like, yeah, but then if it's outside, it will get, what if there's, now it's a 21 plus place, right? Because it's a private club for veterans and whatever, in which I had veteran studies too. And she's like, and I didn't say anything, but I had my head bubble going she's like, and then you're outside smoking and it gets into children's lungs. Like, oh, bless her heart. Bless her heart, as Kathy would say, bless her heart. But, and I did say in the whole thing, like, there's a reason why there's bans now of people can't drive with, you do know this, right?
Yep.
People can't drive with kids in their car anymore and smoke. It's against the law in lots of places. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You can't do it with pets in the car in some places. I mean, there's lots of laws like this, but it's not about you not smoking. And I said that multiple times. I said, this is not about your right to smoke or not smoke. This is about understanding how smoking, non-smoking bans helps your economy. And there's good research on it, and you look into it. And also it helps health impact. Oh, and all got shut down because it was so political and so stressful for so many people. And I just sat there like, wow, that was a lot. And Dr. Googleman, which I know his name, but I won't say it because, he'd be embarrassed. But apparently he does that to everybody that comes in on any issue. And I had never been. So, I walk into these things going, oh my God. So thank God I have facts. So,
well, arguing against the effects of smoking seems silly.
Well, he was totally willing to go there.
Wasn't the issue though, but
no. And that was what I kept saying is that's not the issue, and I talked about how, people have asked me, is there a safe level? No, there's no safe level of smoking. Like, it's all exposure is all exposure. That's why those studies talk about, one exposure can raise it up 30%. Doesn't mean it's going to, but it potentially has that, especially if you're vulnerable, right? Yep. Plus, second, third, and fourth hand smoke, they damage the blood lining, the blood platelets, the ability to clot. The longer exposure that you have over time, the higher the risk goes up. I have asthma now. There's reasons why I probably have it, and I also was raised around a person, not in my family, but that I was around all the time, that smoked like a chimney, and I was around her all the time. And I'm like, oh, well, that didn't help my asthma. Right. Yep. And I'm always like, oh, good. I hope that my lungs are okay down the line because I have asthma. So, they seem fine, but we'll see, because that was throughout my early childhood. And then, okay, so then the other thing is that in a recent study in March of 2024, separating rooms, ventilation, cleaning air, et cetera, are not effective at second, third, and fourth hand smoke. And then this was a really good one too, that in Chile reduced the mortality rate for heart attack and cardiac arrest by putting in non-smoking bans, because they were, they're big smokers down in South America. And it increased the revenue for establishments and patronage. I mean, it was just so very screamingly obvious to have like the hospitality industry in both the United States and across internationally have good impacts from this health-wise and whatever, but they weren't having it. But I just wanted to make sure I put it out there for people that they understand that, wow, if you go into a place that has smoking, this is why they ban smoking on airplanes. This is why there's a reason. It's because they listen to these studies, because they know that is in fact true. So, and what does it do to you? So people don't realize that when you have that second, third, and fourth hand smoke, you actually, the more exposure you get to it, the more addicted you become to it. And so you're more likely to draw yourself to places like that have that, because you actually, your nicotine gets pulled in by it. It's not like you're addicted in the same way, but you're more tolerant in that way. That's a better way to say it. It's not that you're addicted, but you're more tolerant, you're more habituated to it. You're more, you're more able to be resilient in your mind, because you let it. It's like that justification of the hurricane, right? You're able to go in because it's not going to bother you as much. But I always go back to that statistic of it's 30% possibility of a higher increase that you get lung cancer over time for every exposure, even a single exposure. And I can give you the reference for it, despite Dr. Google, but anyway, so it's just interesting because psychologically how people get so twisted when the preferred outcome isn't their outcome based on facts. And, I've talked about preferred outcomes in people and how they see things, and their narrative is very challenged by those things and how attack mode they go into. So if you're ever in those situations and you're talking, so two things here, obviously the smoking issue is, I had to race through this today because we were talking about other things, but if you're ever in a situation where you are, confronted with people that have other facts, it certainly helps you to advocate for yourself and be able to know solidly and confidently. And your facts, if they are, don't pull them from Wikipedia and don't put in a random thing, because Wikipedia is, some things on Wikipedia are fine, but people are notorious to you can find anything you want to find if you really want to find it. And there's people that do research all the time. I have a client that has a parent that goes to two particular websites that have no fundamental scientific method knowledge at all. They just do their research loosely on things. And they end up always scaring people into these very non-fact based fears that create psychological impact for clients.
You can find whatever you want on Google.
You can find whatever you want.
Search flat Earth, search fake moon landing, search aliens in Area 51.
You can find anything you want, but you have to, this goes back
Middle
to
Earth.
This is about going back to triangulating your information, which doesn't mean finding 3 points. It means finding multiple points, which is what I always do, and making sure that, the more you have on something, that means it's going to be more generalizable. However, it has to be credible. And what is credible? Who's the funder? Is there any funding? Is it non-biased? Is it, who's doing it? What is the investment? What is their payout? Like, you have to be able to do that. That means you have a lot of research to do. And also, be a critical thinker. Critical thinking skills lack in a lot of people, not because they're not capable, it's just they don't do it. Because it's like, oh, I read it on TV. I'm being funny about the Reddit, or on the Facebook. It doesn't mean that it's true.
It fits my preferred outcome.
And it fits my preferred outcome.
Yep.
So it was an interesting beginning of my week this week when I realized that I was sitting in front of a very rude man, but also, and I did have board members actually jump to the defense of being disrespectful to me because I was not being disrespectful, but it's just like,
silly.
Like, dude, like, really? And he wasn't even, I imagine he pulled up something that was related to smoking. I couldn't understand half of what he said because he was so enraged. So I was trying to understand, and I said, I don't actually know what you're even looking at, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you if that's true. I just know what I'm telling you is fact, and he was like, he was not ready for me to say I had the reference.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, and do you have the reference for that? And I said, I absolutely do. And he was like, and then he just attacked me right back.
Yep.
He was not liking that. So, advocate and stay calm and try to really, be in the day. And there you are. So as I get ready to close the show, we go back to the beginning, which is all of our loved ones and friends and everyone that we don't know and everyone that is in the path of the hurricane. Please do what you can to stay safe. If you've decided to stay where you've been told not to, I am sorry. And I will send good energy to you and your loved ones and hope for you. And everybody else has done the thing that they're supposed to do. Great. And I trust all my friends. I know what they're doing. So all those people out there, and awesome for, if you want to look for Lucy, you can go to the TWS website and watch for her incoming arrival to Minnesota. And you can certainly help out there. And, if you can go down and help the hurricane aftermath and you're retired or can help, certainly do that. But we are thinking for everybody in Florida for the next 36 hours. So everyone have a great week and the best week you can, and stay safe.